They used to joke about me in meetings when they thought I couldn't hear. Too expensive. Overpaid. Replaceable. I was the line item everyone wanted gone. So when they finally fired me, they expected relief, cheers, even. What they got instead was silence. Then panic. Then a number so large it froze the room, $1.8 billion. Overnight. Because what they never understood was that I wasn't a cost. I was the reason the entire structure still stood. And the moment they cut me loose, gravity did the rest. My name is Natalie Kerr, and for years I was the quiet problem no one wanted to defend publicly but everyone depended on privately, the senior architect behind our largest enterprise contracts, the one who flew overnight to fix disasters executives created during the day, and the woman whose salary showed up on spreadsheets circled in red with notes like unsustainable, bloated, and my personal favorite, too expensive, which became a running joke among leadership, whispered during meetings. When they thought my mic was muted, because in corporate America competence is celebrated only until it shows up on a budget line, and when a new CFO arrived with a mandate to optimize costs, I knew exactly where the knife would land, the jokes stopped being subtle, the side glances more frequent, and suddenly meetings about efficiency included slides comparing my compensation to 3 junior employees combined, as if experience, trust, and accountability were interchangeable commodities. And I didn't argue, didn't justify myself, because I'd learned something important over my 15 years in corporate strategy. People who reduce value to numbers never understand leverage until it's gone. The firing itself happened on a Thursday afternoon, clean and polite. HR smiling nervously as they explained the company was moving in a different direction, leadership thanking me for my contributions, and I nodded, signed the paperwork, and walked out without raising my voice, because the real consequences weren't emotional, they were structural, and those take time to surface. What they didn't know, what they never bothered to map, was that every one of our top 5 clients had clauses tied directly to my oversight, not my name on paper, but my involvement in execution, risk management, and escalation authority, because over the years clients had learned that when Natalie was on it, problems disappeared, and when she wasn't, things got messy fast, and while leadership assumed those relationships belonged to the company, the clients knew better, because trust doesn't transfer automatically when a badge stops working. By the next morning, emails started going unanswered, not because anyone was ignoring them, but because I was the connective tissue between departments that didn't actually talk to each other, and without me, approvals stalled, exceptions weren't granted, and decisions bounced endlessly between inboxes, while clients started calling their contacts asking why Natalie wasn't responding, and when they were told I was no longer with the company, the tone shifted immediately from confusion to concern, because institutional memory isn't something you replace with a press release. By noon, one major client invoked a pause clause, freezing a multi-billion-dollar rollout until key personnel continuity could be confirmed, which leadership brushed off publicly while privately scrambling, and by end of day another client delayed a renewal, citing uncertainty, and when the markets opened the next morning, analysts noticed the signals, stock dipped, and suddenly the cost-cutting wind didn't feel so victorious. Over the next 48 hours, the dominoes fell exactly the way I knew they would, because the systems I'd designed required judgment, not just access, and junior replacements followed playbooks without understanding context, triggering compliance flags, missing nuance, and escalating issues that never should have left the room. While executives held emergency meetings trying to reconstruct workflows they'd never bothered to learn, and by the time legal quantified the exposure, the number landed hard, $1.8 billion in immediate valuation loss tied to delayed deals, paused contracts, and shaken investor confidence, all traceable to key leadership removal. And that was the moment the jokes stopped. My phone started ringing that afternoon, first from HR asking if I'd consider consulting short-term, then from an executive who'd once laughed about my salary asking if I'd be open to discussing options, and finally from a board liaison speaking carefully, because suddenly my costs didn't seem so high compared to the damage my absence created, and I listened politely, because revenge doesn't need cruelty, it just needs clarity, and I declined every offer, not out of spite, but because the trust was broken, and once trust is gone, no amount of money fixes the foundation. A week later, a competitor reached out, not coincidentally one that had lost bids to us repeatedly because of my involvement, offering me a role with autonomy, authority, and an understanding that expertise isn't an expense, it's insurance, and I accepted, watching from a distance as my former company issued reassurances, adjusted guidance, and quietly reassigned the executives who championed my firing, because in the end no one wanted their name attached to the decision that erased $1.8 billion overnight, and the irony wasn't lost on anyone who joked about my paycheck, because the most expensive thing they ever did wasn't paying me, it was firing me. And if there's one lesson in all of this, it's that companies don't collapse because of villains or disasters, they collapse because they mistake invisible strength for excess weight, and cut it loose without realizing it was holding everything together.